welcome back, you guys. I hope you're having a good day, good morning, good evening, wherever you are listening to voice notes right now. Thank you for coming back. As you can tell, I have a little bit of a cold. I've been a little sick, but I'm not gonna let that be a reason to not film another episode. So let's talk about perfectionist paralysis. So perfectionist paralysis is the reason why you haven't gotten another episode since I released the first two. So let's talk about it. What is perfectionist paralysis? It's exactly what it sounds like. Being able to proceed with something because you're waiting for the right conditions. Surprise, surprise, they never happen. Rarely ever in life does everything line up perfectly for you to do the thing that you want to do. I feel like especially for creative people who have been through any sort of trauma, this rings true. Most of the time, perfectionism also ties in with the fear of visibility, and that's what causes the paralysis aspect of it. The overthinking is what's paralyzing you from creating. But what if it's not perfect? What if I'm not perfect? I have to control the way I'm perceived as much as possible type of thoughts. I hate to burst your bubble, baby, but you could do everything perfectly right and someone can still misjudge you or perceive you 100% incorrectly. Because at the end of the day, we could only see others as deeply as we've seen ourselves, right? So you could have all the right intentions and someone will still come up with some bullshit ass reason about why or how you did something wrong. We're humans. Or more correctly, we are eternal spirits having a human experience. We literally incarnated onto this earth to have a messy ass human experience. To learn, to grow, and you can't put that into a neat little box and expect perfection. To exist is to be messy. Perfectionism is killing your momentum. And not just that, but it's actually also destroying your opportunities to grow. So what is perfectionism and why do some people suffer from it and some don't? So perfectionism is a mindset where someone sets extremely high standards for themselves and ties their self-worth to meeting those standards. It's not just about wanting to do well. It's feeling like anything less than perfect is not good enough. So at its core, perfectionism often includes all or nothing thinking, fear of mistakes or judgment, harsh self-criticism, difficulty resting, finishing, or feeling satisfied, and heavy procrastination. I know because I've suffered from this my entire life. So, there's two common types of perfectionism. Adaptive perfectionism, which equals high standards that can motivate your growth, paired with self-compassion. Or maladaptive perfectionism, which is high standards driven by fear, shame, the need to prove your worth. This is the type of perfectionism that is linked to anxiety, burnout, and low self-esteem. If you can guess which one I've suffered from my entire life. Maladaptive perfectionism, obviously. Many people, especially high achievers, creatives, and wellness-focused women, learn perfectionism as a coping strategy. If I do everything perfectly, I'll be safe, loved, or enough. And this is so sad. I feel so sad for the parts of me that thought that they had to do everything perfectly in order to be loved, in order to be enough. I feel like we often learn perfectionism in childhood through overly harsh and critical parents or through shame-based cultures, which isn't uncommon in a Latino or Black household. Let's just keep it real. So the shift doesn't come from lowering your standards. It comes from untangling your worth from performance and allowing progress, learning, and humanity for yourself. So perfectionism at its root is just fear dressed up as competence. And not to run talking about your nervous system into the ground, but I feel like it needs to be said. When perfectionism is tied to your fear of being seen, that is tied to your nervous system, which is tied to your identity. You are afraid to show up as your true, authentic self because you don't feel safe in your body. Period. And the truth that no one is telling you is that you don't need more discipline. You need new experiences that show your nervous system that it's safe and okay to be seen. Because everything lands in our body before it takes root in our subconscious. The body keeps the score and all that. So how do we move forward and get over this fear and get over this impediment? Because I've come to the realization that essentially that's what it is. Perfectionism is an impediment. I mean, at least to me it is, because it's causing you to spend your precious, precious time on earth overthinking, overanalyzing, when you can just be living. Feel free and be living and feel okay making mistakes. So how we move forward is regulating the nervous system. It's single-handedly the most important thing you can do for yourself in your life. So many people, my past self included, are paralyzed by the fear of perception. We're all living in the digital age, and you hear every single day on Instagram that creating a personal brand is one of the best ways to become an entrepreneur. Yada, yada, yada. Well, the further I've gotten along on my journey, I've realized that nervous system regulation is the number one thing you have to focus on if you're trying to level up and shed an old identity that no longer serves you. And that the key to nervous system regulation is not a one-size-fits-all. It's whatever works for you. Your nervous system files emotional pain and physical threat in the same category. Isn't that some crazy shit? You can't force achievement to override survival. There is no motivational quote that I can give you to get you out of this, because survival always wins. It is our biology. We are wired to survive. And so you have to find what works for you to get out of survival mode so that you can think clearly. And listen, I've done all the breath work, the Pilates, the yoga, the Reiki energy healing sessions, the journaling. I've tried damn near everything. And I'm going to be honest with you. It's not just one thing that works for me all the time. What works for me changes with my needs. So let's talk about the science behind the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is the main pathway between your body and your brain. The vagus nerve is essentially the main circuit of your nervous system, okay? If y'all haven't seen Frankenstein, that new movie on Netflix with Jacob Elordi, bro, you got to watch that. Not to plug that. They are not paid me to plug that movie. But I swear to God, he literally builds Frankenstein and builds the entire nervous system. And I feel like if you watch that movie, you're going to get a better frame of reference of what I'm talking about. So you'll be able to picture it. You know what I mean? So go watch that movie. But anyways, back to the point. So the vagus nerve, right, is essentially the main circuit of your nervous system. Think about the roots of a tree, and the roots are your vagus nerve. And the actual tree is like the outside of your body, right? So listen to this. I looked this science shit up and I was blown away. The vagus nerve is made up of all these fibers, right? So like the roots. 80% of those fibers are afferent, meaning that 80% of the signals that you're receiving travel from the body to the brain. 80% of the signals you're receiving travel from your body to your brain. Just let that sink in for a little bit. That is the craziest shit I've ever heard. And I feel like this is not commonly known. And only 20% are going from your brain telling the body what to do. So your brain is constantly reading cues from your gut, your breath, and your nervous system. So what does this mean? This means that you cannot think your way into calmness. your body has to be involved in creating calmness. And when you involve your body is when the transformation and the healing happens. When you support your vagus nerve, you are supporting your entire healing journey, physically, emotionally, mentally. In the last episode, we talked about finding stillness and getting quiet so that you can hear God and so that you can feel and get the downloads and the ideas that tell you what to do next and how to move, right? Dropping into your body is a part of that. So if the first part is quiet in the mind and finding stillness, the second part is listening to your body and giving it what it needs. Movement, nourishment. This might sound easy and obvious, but it's not always, especially not for someone who's been on go mode their whole fucking life. I know for me, one of the hardest lessons I've ever had to learn in these past few months was how to slow down. For the longest time, I had the craziest fear of showing up online as my true self, even though I was constantly making content. Isn't that crazy? What do I mean by showing up imperfectly? I mean like no filter, no good angles, no perfect editing, no face tune, just raw and real. The voices in my head would say, oh, but my teeth are crooked, but I gained all this weight since my accident. I don't look the same. But recently I've had another voice come into my head, and thank God for it. And this is what it said. Baby, God doesn't care about all that mess, so why should you? I know that if you've lived in survival mode your entire life, you cling to perfectionism as a coping mechanism because it's what makes you feel proud and competent. It's a part of the attitude of hyper-independence, the I can do it all myself mindset. And I'm proud of everything that you've accomplished, truly. You should be so proud of yourself for everything that you've carried on your shoulders alone when nobody so much even gave a fuck if you lived or died or if you ate that day. And oof, I'm getting emotional because I'm thinking about my own journey. But I'm telling you that you don't have to live like that anymore. You really don't. Part of the trap of survival mode is that it gets you into a loop of hyper-independence and isolation. But I think part of healing and leveling up means giving yourself permission to move on from the identity that you had to live in order to survive. So give yourself permission right here and right now. Repeat after me. I give myself permission to heal. I give myself permission to create a new reality. I give myself permission to create a new version of me that isn't rooted in survival. I give myself permission to be limitless. I give myself permission to undo all the pain, all the trauma, all the suffering, all the sadness, and to leave all that shit behind and to create a new version of me. The one that thrives, the one that lives, the one that loves, the one that feels joy. Give yourself that permission right here and right now because you deserve it. Listen, I understand how scary it can be because who are you without the personality traits that kept you alive in the first place, right? This is why when you get to a certain point in mindset work and healing, you come to the realization that you need to completely change your identity and create a new one if you want to move forward into the healed version of you. You need to stop operating out of your traumas and your fear and using perfectionism as a coping mechanism. It sounds like a good thing to have from the outside, but when you realize that it's really just the way in which you are paralyzing yourself in small-minded thinking, being so detailed, so focused and obsessive, the day you realize that is the day that you are free. Because what happens now is not only do you start to do the work to undo those traits, but now you're able to think bigger. and expand your desires to see the big picture. We'll end the episode with this. I saw this clip of a movie called Gia with Angelina Jolie on Instagram the other day. I've never seen this movie, but I saw the clip on Instagram. The clip was, she's apologizing to this photographer, and he looks up and very succinctly says to her, Gia, this is life, not heaven. You don't have to be perfect. And for some reason, that hit me like a fucking knife to my gut, bro. Because for so long, I've been thinking that in order to be, I have to show up as knowing it all, having it all, and perfect. And it's taken me 30 plus years to undo perfectionism. But thank God I have. Because what is perfectionism other than just paralysis? If you're perfect, it doesn't get any better than that. You don't improve. There's nowhere to go. And now you're just stuck in a box being perfect. And life is not like that. The real glow up happens the moment you stop waiting to be perfect to show up. So show up, do the thing, do it scared, do it anyway, and see what happens. Wishing you courage and bravery, my love. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye. If you enjoyed this episode of Voice Notes by Evie, share wherever you can. Your support is always appreciated. And you can find links to everything on my Instagram at Voice Notes by Evie.